Hello guys, and welcome back to my podcast. I am always excited to do a podcast episode for your listening pleasure. And so today we're going to be talking about how to use a diplomatic tone in business communication, and this will be my part one. Now, I consider this very important because you are in a business setting. You might be listening to me, you're a student or a business person or a manager, whatever you are, and every day or almost every day you communicate, you do business related communications, and it's really important that you know how to master being diplomatic, when talking to people. So today's podcast is like the introduction, where we talk about, what a tone is, what is diplomatic tone, and then why you should care about your tone in communication, especially in a business setting. And don't forget, my name is Ruth, and this is Learn English with Ruth podcast. I'm an English teacher. I focus on teaching English pronunciation, vocabulary development, and English grammar. And also I have a YouTube channel where I teach my students, I give free video lessons on how to improve on your English. Okay, now imagine you and your team are, working late hours to complete your current business project, and then your manager walks in and just says, please note that the project deadline is 2 days away. Now, before the time, he had told you like you had 2 weeks to do the project, and you've been working your heads off, and you've been staying late hours at work. You've been sacrificing a lot to complete this business project, and so he just walked in unannounced and did not seem to care. You've been working late, you've been having a lot of overtimes at work, and then he just says, oh, the project deadline is 2 days away. There's a lot to do and you don't have much time. And so what are you going to do at that point? Almost everybody's going to panic. Like you're going to be like, what is his problem? Like there's going to be a lot of dissatisfaction around. There's going to be a lot of anger around. And why is that? It is because he just came up at you and just threw those things at you. He just said, okay, in the next 2 days you should be done with whatever. You don't have much time, just get it over with. And more like an I don't care attitude. Hearing these words from him will just make you feel like a child who's not done their homework, and it will make you feel guilty that you've not finished, and also make you feel unappreciated because you're putting in a lot of effort to get this project completed, but the manager does not seem to appreciate you. However, this is not how you want to sound in a business, setting, especially if you are the manager, or you are in a very high position, or whatever your position. You just want to sound professional all the time. You should sound professional all the time. There is a particular way that you should sound as a business person. This means that you want to appear friendly, helpful, and courteous all the time. Now, one way to do this is to use diplomatic tone. Now, before we look at what a diplomatic tone is, let's just look at what is tone. What is a tone? Now, I sing, I used to sing, I still sing, and in music, a tone, has a definition, right? But now in business communication, let's just look at a tone, and it's not different from basically what a tone is in communication in general, but let's just look at what a tone is. A tone is the manner in which you speak or write, and how it affects the person who receives the message. For instance, now a mother is trying to correct her child from, throwing toys all over the place. She's going to sound very different from a mother who's trying to console the child who is crying. So the first mother trying to correct the child will say something like, stop that right now. Very sharp, very cut, if you will. And the mother who's trying to console her child would be like, oh baby, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Stop crying, would you? Tell me what's wrong with you. So these two tones are entirely different. Tone is present in all forms of communication, and it is reflected in the way you phrase a message and the words you choose to use. In spoken communication, your tone will be reflected in your voice, your facial expression, and your body language. For example, you would welcome a customer with a smile. should welcome a customer with a smile, but many times we don't always see that now, do we? A smile, with a friendly greeting, and the handshake. So what is diplomatic tone? Someone is being diplomatic when they thrive and strive to communicate well, be understanding, find solutions that work for everybody. In general, a diplomatic tone simply refers to a softer quote and unquote tone, which sounds professional, polite and understanding, and creates a good impression and encourages action to be taken. Now, using a diplomatic tone in business is important in getting the results you hope to achieve from any type of communication. What are the reasons why you should be diplomatic? And I really like you to pay attention at this point, because it's really important, while you're doing all this. Being diplomatic in business communication has a lot of benefits, and it's better to cultivate the culture of, having, of being more diplomatic than not being diplomatic at all, because a lot of things can go wrong when you don't put into consideration the fact that you're talking to people, you're dealing with people, and there ought to be like a form and an increased level of diplomacy. Now, as a business professional, there are many reasons why you should use your most diplomatic tone when communicating with your co-workers and business partners. So let's look at 4 reasons. Now, the first one is to be courteous and diplomatic. The reason why you should cultivate and have a diplomatic tone so that you sound courteous and diplomatic. Now, let's look again at the earlier example I gave of the manager's announcement. He said, "Please note that the project deadline is 2 days away. There's a lot to do and you don't have much time, so I suggest you put in more effort and extra hours from now on." That sounds really harsh and heartless, because it's more like you've been putting a lot of effort. First of all, you thought the project deadline was like 2 weeks away, and then he just barges into the office, without greeting anyone, and just says, "Oh, we have 2 days to go," and everyone is like almost thrown into chaos, and that is not nice at all. So how it made you feel, just imagine with me, or remember how it made you feel. It sounded like your manager had not been seeing your hard work. It sounded more like he wanted to put more pressure on you than necessary. There were no explanations at all. And also, it sounded like he was not satisfied with your results. Now, let's give it a diplomatic tone. Let's assume that the manager is diplomatic. He passes the information in a more diplomatic tone. So let's see. This is how it will sound. "I know how hard you've all been working. Our project deadline is Friday. I hope you'd continue giving it your best to make this project a success." Now, how does that make you feel? Now, did you get the feeling that your manager cares and he values your effort? This will probably make you work harder and be motivated to do more, because first of all, he's noticing that you're working hard. He doesn't sound heartless, he doesn't sound harsh. Now, there's also another slant I want to talk about. You can be diplomatic and firm, because there can be a little confusion here where you think that to be diplomatic, it's like weak, to appear weak, but no. Being diplomatic does not mean you're weak. It means you care about the other party. It means you're more professional. It means that you want to, communicate in a way that the other party understands, as well as get the message and the actions that should be taken, really. Because for the manager who just came in and just gave a lot of harsh orders and back to the people, everyone's going to be like thrown into chaos. You're going to be like, he does not really care about us. What is his problem? Blah, 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 blah. If you were on the team, you would probably work and complete the project, but you'll be dissatisfied and a lot of things can go wrong. But better it is when you're diplomatic. Now, the second reason why you should care about being diplomatic is that it makes your message sound more positive than negative. No one likes to receive a negative message. And however, there are many situations in business that you may have to deliver or respond to unwelcome news. For example, when there's a drop in sales or a project delay or a customer complaint, when you have to deliver or respond to a negative message, using a softer tone can make your message sound more positive and easier to accept. Your tone can also let people know that you believe in their abilities and that you believe they can solve any problem. That is really key. Now, the third reason why you should care about being diplomatic is to make a problem seem less serious. Now, this is in no way saying that you should ignore the problem or you should act like the problem does not exist at all. No, it just, there are a lot of things that can happen in a business setting where there's a lot of overwhelming bad things happening in one day. But with your diplomatic communication, you'll be able to make big problems sound like they can be solved. You'd make them look very small and let people know that, oh, you can solve this problem if you put your heart to it. So being diplomatic will make the problem seem less serious. Again, no one likes to hear bad news. No one likes to hear about problems or bad news at work, especially if it affects them. So if you have to report situations or respond to situations, using a softer tone and be more diplomatic would help make the problem seem less. And then number 4, which is like something that is personally like I thought about and I deemed it really fit for it to be put on here on this podcast, is being diplomatic. Why you should care about being diplomatic is for the emotional and overall health of the people you're communicating with. Just imagine that you're a forex trader or you're a cryptocurrency trader. Now, in the cryptocurrency world, there's a lot of risks involved, and you might not know, but that's what happens. And so just imagine there is a terrible dip and you lose like billions of dollars. The partner at work has high blood pressure and cannot handle a lot of bad news at once. And so you get the bad news and you're to break it down to him. Being diplomatic would ensure you break it down in a softer tone. You communicate all that is needed to be communicated without sounding like a total disaster has occurred. Don't get me wrong, losing billions and billions of dollars is bad news in itself, but how you deliver the message and tell your partner that, see this, this, we've lost some money and we'll have to work towards gaining it back. So that thing about being diplomatic in communication or having a diplomatic tone is that the focus is on the problem, but much more on what is the way forward. How can we get out of the shit we've found ourselves in, and how can we move forward? Okay, so I hope you've learned a lot today, and we talked about what a tone is, what is a diplomatic tone, and what you should care about your diplomatic tone. In the next episode, that is episode 12, we're going to be talking about 5 ways to use diplomatic tone. And this will help you to develop the diplomatic tone you need for your office and business environment and setting and your communication with others. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I will see you in episode 12. Bye guys.